Okay, just imagine this for a second. What if you could watch your own brain fall apart from the inside? And what if, when it happened, you were a Harvard-trained brain scientist? I mean, talk about a unique perspective. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, the incredible story of Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, a neuroanatomist who got to study her own massive stroke while it was literally unfolding.
So listen to this. That's how Dr. Taylor described a moment during her stroke. I mean, that doesn't sound like a cold clinical observation, does it? It sounds more like a spiritual release. And that right there is the fascinating paradox of her whole story. It's a journey into catastrophic brain failure, but she describes it as euphoria. So how on earth is that even possible?
So, let's set the scene. The year is 1996, and Dr. Taylor, well, she wasn't just any patient. Her entire career was dedicated to understanding the brain's super intricate wiring. Then, one morning, just like that, a blood vessel explodes in her head, and suddenly she's plunged into the very world she'd spent her life studying, but this time from the inside out.
And her journey back was, well, it was a long one. After that stroke in '96, it took her a staggering 8 years to rebuild her brain. I mean, think about that. Then in 2008, she gives this TED Talk, and it just blows up. Her story reaches millions of people. Fast forward a few more years, and she distills everything she learned from this experience into this new framework, which she published in 2021.
All right, so what was the huge insight? What did she learn from this absolutely terrifying, and yet, for her, totally enlightening experience?
She actually calls it nirvana. You see, as the hemorrhage started to silence her left hemisphere, the part of our brain that handles logic, language, all that analytical stuff, her sense of I just started to shut down. All that internal chatter, the constant worrying, the to-do lists, poof, it all just dissolved. So with her left brain effectively offline, all she was left with was the pure experience of her right hemisphere. And that meant complete immersion in the present moment. No past regrets, no future anxieties, just this incredible feeling of being connected to the vast energy of the universe. And this led her to her big idea. Our two brain hemispheres have totally distinct personalities. Okay, so from this really profound experience, she develops this practical model for all of us to understand our own minds. She calls them the 4 characters, or as she puts it, our brain team. Now, what's really interesting is how she maps all this out. She doesn't just say left and right. She divides the brain into 4 quadrants. So you've got a thinking part and an emotional part on the left side, and a thinking and an emotional part on the right. And this gives us 4 totally distinct characters living inside our heads. So come on, let's meet them.
All right, first up, from your left thinking brain, you've got character 1, the planner. This is your inner analyst, the one who loves structure, follows the rules, and is obsessed with your daily schedule.
Also hanging out in the left brain is character 2, the protector. Think of this one as your inner alarm system. It's super cautious, always focused on safety, and loves to replay past mistakes just to make sure you don't mess up again. Okay, now let's jump over to the right brain. Here we meet character 3, the explorer. This is your inner artist, your adventurer. It's playful, curious, and just wants to seek out new experiences and live for the sheer joy of it. And last but not least, character 4, the connector. This is your inner sage. That peaceful, compassionate part of you that sees the big picture and feels a sense of oneness with, well, everything. And this is the character that she was left with during her stroke.
So, there you have it. 4 very different characters all living in your head. A real team of rivals, right? So, what are you supposed to do with them all?
Now, the crucial point here is that the goal is not to silence any of them. It's not about telling your anxious protector to get lost or your rule-loving planner to just shut up. Nope. Each character has a vital job. The real goal is to get good at recognizing who's talking, who's got their hands on the steering wheel at any given moment, and then you get to consciously choose who should be in charge.
Okay, it's an incredibly compelling story, right? And a super useful metaphor. But this is where our story takes a bit of a critical turn. How well does this whole model actually hold up to, modern scientific scrutiny?
And that really is the million-dollar question. Is this elegant 4 characters model a literal one-to-one map of our brain, or is it something else entirely?
So this really gets to the heart of the debate. On one hand, you have the popular view, the one that fits Dr. Taylor's story so well. Logical, analytical left brain, creative, intuitive right brain. It's a simple, appealing idea. But on the other hand, we have modern neuroscience. And what the fMRI scans show us is that the brain is this incredibly complex, integrated network. Most of the stuff we do, whether it's art or math, actually lights up regions on both sides of the brain, all working together.
In fact, writing for Psychology Today, Dr. Robert Klitzman argues that we've kind of entered an age of neuromythology. He says we're just so drawn to these simple brain explanations for super complex human behaviors, but the scientific reality is way, way more complicated.
And this isn't just a fringe opinion. Even the super prestigious New England Journal of Medicine published a review that suggested her interpretation is just too narrow. The critique is basically asking, is she taking this incredibly complex personal experience and forcing it into a simplified left brain versus right brain box that the broader science just doesn't fully back up?
And look, that skepticism isn't just coming from academic journals. The public reaction has been pretty split too. You see comments like this one from Reddit, where, despite her scientific credentials, some people walk away from her famous TED Talk feeling like it was less hard science and more, well, new age hocus pocus.
So, okay, we've got this profound, incredible personal story that clearly resonates with millions of people, but we've also got some pretty serious scientific critiques. So where does that leave us with all this? How can we actually use this idea?
Well, here's maybe the most useful way to think about it. Maybe the four characters model isn't a perfect, literal map of your brain's wiring, but what if it's just a really, really powerful and useful metaphor? It gives us a simple language to finally put a name to all those conflicting voices in our heads. And that self-awareness, that's always the first step toward making better, more conscious choices.
And to make it practical, Dr. Taylor gives us an actual tool for this. It's called the Brain Huddle. It's basically a 5-step check-in. First, you just breathe. Pause. Then recognize which one of your 4 characters is at the wheel. Step 3 is appreciate. You actually thank that character for its input, for trying to help. Then you inquire. You turn to your other characters and ask for their perspectives. And finally, navigate. You consciously choose how to move forward, but this time with input from your whole team.
So, in the end, whether you see this as literal neuroscience or a beautiful neuromythology, the model leaves us all with a really powerful and practical question to ask ourselves. Your planner, your protector, your explorer, and your connector, they are all talking all the time. The real question is, who are you choosing to give the microphone to?